why is the state coming out and saying this, but like CSU rejecting it? It definitely is a little suspicious.
Taking the numbers out of proportion?
What's happening with coronavirus cases at CSU and what the university has to say about it?
The students should have confidence in the CSU pandemic preparedness team.
It might be one of the most confusing questions you'll face on the Colorado ballot.
It doesn't matter if you call it a fee or you call it a tax, it's money that's coming out of your pocket.
We're explaining Proposition 117 and how it could impact government spending, plus where next week's presidential debate stands.
And Denver7 needs your help feeding hundreds of families struggling during this pandemic. And we begin tonight with breaking news for the Broncos and you, the fans, of course. The team's Sunday afternoon game against the Patriots has now been pushed to Monday.
Sports Director Lionel Bienvenu joins us. Lionel, we know the NFL has been watching the Patriots very closely because they've had 3 players test positive for COVID.
Yeah, that's why they made the call today. The NFL is pushing the Broncos-Pats game back a day to Monday afternoon. That's confirmed by our Broncos insider, Troy Rank. The Patriots have not been able to practice at all this week with those 3 players testing positive. Today, there were no new positive tests for the Pats, so they hope to reopen their facility on Saturday, get a practice in, a walkthrough in before the game Monday afternoon, which is going to start at 3:05 Mountain Time, so it doesn't conflict with the late game on Monday night. Now, as far as the Broncos are concerned, they have no positive COVID-19 test. They're not happy they're getting penalized for this. We'll get an extra day of practice time. Today, this is Drew Lock. Limited again, but he did a lot of throwing. Vic Fangio said the 24-hour difference won't make a huge impact on the decision on whether or not Drew plays. We'll have much more coming up at 6 o'clock.
All right, Lionel, thank you very much for that. Also new tonight, an alarming spike in COVID-19 cases right here in Colorado. Today, we added 863 positive cases.
And last time we saw a number somewhat close to that was back in July, during the few weeks after the 4th of July weekend.
Today's now the 3rd largest single-day increase since the state started tracking COVID-19 tests. But here's a number really to keep the close eye on, the hospital beds. Right now, 356 beds in Colorado being used by COVID patients, and there are still thousands available.
Is CSU having an outbreak or not? CSU is debating new numbers from the state, and regardless, the school has had nearly 500 students test positive for COVID-19 since the semester began. So really, just how is the university doing?
We sent Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez to Fort Collins to find out.
To see those numbers like rise, it can be like a little concerning for sure.
Many students on CSU's campus were beyond confused.
It does lead you to think like, are there this many cases? Why is the state coming out and saying this, but like CSU rejecting it? It definitely is a little suspicious.
Wednesday evening, the state health department reported 375 confirmed COVID-19 cases among students. But in total, CSU has had 468 cases since May of this year. And for the last few days, they've only reported a total of 15 new cases.
It's definitely a little concerning to me because there's already so much like misinformation going around, I feel like. So obviously I want to trust CSU and I want to trust the state, so it's hard to like figure out which one's kind of telling the truth, I guess.
The reality is they're both telling the truth.
We do not have an outbreak of 300 and some cases. That was a change in the reporting system to the state. And my understanding at this point is that what they posted was an aggregate number since the beginning of the school semester.
Meaning the state health department combined the number of positive cases since August for CSU.
And I think we just need to understand what was gathered, how it's presented, and go forward with ensuring that the numbers that are put out there are an accurate depiction of the status of the university.
And students I spoke with say they believe the university is doing a good job so far, despite witnessing smaller outbreaks within the football team and Greek life.
I've been doing what I have to do to socially distance myself from other people, like wearing a mask and like washing my hands. And I know the school is also doing their part in like trying to help us all during this pandemic.
That was Ivan Rodriguez. Now today, the new public health order went in place for Boulder, allowing certain 18 to 22-year-olds to gather in larger groups. This new order was established after a decrease in positive cases on campus. CU will also be allowing some students to return to the classroom by the middle of next week.
A potential rally for President Trump and a town hall for Joe Biden.
That So right now, where we stand in regards to next week's now non-existent presidential debate, things unraveled this morning. That's when the Commission on Presidential Debates announced next Thursday's event would be virtual, since the president is still recovering from coronavirus. Well, the president said no. Vice President Biden said yes, and then the president argued moving the debate to next Thursday, which Biden said no to, and now the president is planning either an in-person or virtual rally next week instead. Meanwhile, Biden will be participating in a currently solo ABC town hall on that Thursday instead. I hope you got all that.
And as the president recovers from COVID, the Washington, D.C. Department of Health today released an open letter to the White House. In it, they ask all White House staff and anybody who attended the Supreme Court nomination event in the Rose Garden last month to seek medical advice and take a COVID test. As of right now, 26 people connected to the Trump administration have tested positive for the coronavirus.
You know, it's easy to say Prop 117 is one of the more nuanced initiatives that voters will be deciding on this year.
Well, Denver7's political reporter Megan Lopez explains what it does and how it could change government spending in Colorado.
For nearly 30 years, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights has been a centerpiece of Colorado's Constitution. At its core, a requirement that voters must approve of any tax increases. But Tabor made an important exception, allowing the legislature to create or raise fees for government-owned enterprises. Things like higher education tuition, healthcare, unemployment insurance, and more. Here's the distinction. Taxes raise money to fund the government. Fees offset the costs of those particular programs. Proposition 117 would require any new government enterprises projected to raise $100 million or more over the first 5 years to get voter approval first. For supporters of the initiative,
Over the years, the enterprise system has gone from things that are more user-based and sort of been transitioned into things that are more mandatory.
This bait and switch, this idea of, well, we're going to create an enterprise and call it a fee, and therefore we don't have to ask the people whether we can raise their taxes or not.
It doesn't matter if you call it a fee or you call it a tax, it's money that's coming out of your pocket.
If we need more money, we should go to the people.
And we want to first send a message that Coloradans, really do want a vote on these big new programs.
so they're asking for a yes vote. Opponents of the idea
Those who are using and getting the benefit are the ones paying in.
say this will put critical services at risk.
Enterprises are one of a very few set of tools that legislators have in their toolbox. It will be very complicated, very messy, and make enterprising extremely difficult, if not impossible, for a number of the things that we're endeavoring to do to make Coloradans' lives better.
They say it could also hurt education funding in the state.
We need to do better by our students, not harm them even further by measures like this.
And if these fees head to the ballot,
It would just be one more thing on our ballot that would bring in large corporate dollars, big money into our elections.
so they're asking for a no vote. A complicated issue, a consequential topic on a busy ballot. Megan Lopez, Denver7.
And if you think Prop 117 is confusing, Amendment B is going to have your head spinning. So coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, Megan once again is going to do the heavy lifting for us and take a 360 look at a move to repeal the Gallagher Amendment.
By the way, ballots are going out in the mail tomorrow. And to help you decide on one of the most important races facing our state, tomorrow Denver7 is hosting a debate between Senator Cory Gardner and John Hickenlooper. It starts at 5 o'clock right here on Denver7. I'll be moderating along with our partners at the Denver Post and Colorado Public Radio. Hundreds of Colorado families are still in need of meals during this pandemic, and now you can help.
Denver7 is partnering with Food Bank of the Rockies for 7 days to end hunger virtual food drive. And these food bank volunteers are waiting to take your donations. The number to call, 303-777-7492, and you can call tonight through 6:30.
And Denver7 Gives is matching the first $10,000 in donations this week, and we are getting close to that amount. If you want to help, please join in. You can also give online at thedenverchannel.com. More than 9,000 people now needing to pay back thousands to the state.
There is some confusion about requirements with regard to reporting wages.
Now the Colorado Labor Department is explaining what went wrong. Plus, DIA having to rethink its Great Hall project.
I understand that the airport is in a tough spot. I also understand that this is a lot of money
Will saving money on the layout leave airport security at risk?
You're trying to make the best decision that you can.
And more on the massive plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan.
I knew this job would be hard, but I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this.
It's been another hot one today. I'll let you know when cooler conditions are coming to Colorado.